Hey everyone, welcome to another Angry Artist podcast. Before I start this audio, I wanted to talk about a new series that I will be making for next year. Now, a lot of people have been requesting me to draw and paint record it, but my mentality about teaching art is always theory first. And I enjoy seeing how people use my information to apply to their own work. So I'm going to analyze a ton of the greatest pieces of artwork that I feel demonstrate the strongest fundamentals. Now, I'll be doing these one by one, and hopefully, you will learn a lot from my analysis, and maybe you'll find something interesting as well. Again, it'll be coming out next year. I'm currently trying to figure out a good format for it, but I absolutely know that people will enjoy these videos. Now let's get to the topic at hand. In the past, I've talked about how references are extremely important when it comes to creating your artwork. And I'll repeat it here as well. You do not want to assume that you understand what something looks like, because chances are you will be drawing a stereotype of what you think something looks like. Now, this doesn't go with just human beings and ethnicities and such, obviously, as the terms might imply. It also goes into objects, so such as trees, such as buildings. So we've always had the case where if you tell a child to draw a house, they'll probably just draw a square and a triangular top to represent the roof. Now, of course, as an artist, we would be drawing the house in a more advanced state. But the same thing applies. We're going to be drawing what we think a house might look like and really won't know the nuances of what that house might have. So it's best to get references in order to vary your designs and spice it up a bit. So where do we really get these references? Now, I'm going to be explaining it in two different ways. One, I'll be talking about some websites I really like to use in order to get those photos or even some artwork, the feeling that you want to achieve that another artist might have achieved in such a way. The second way is to really understand the nuances, the less obvious way to get references. Anyways, I'll start by talking about the first one. Google search is probably the number one thing I see artists using. Now, there are other websites too. So other ones would be something like Flickr, which has a ton of photos, by the way. If you really want to have the mecca of photography from all different facets of life, look at Flickr. Another one is Pinterest. Now, Pinterest is something very interesting, as the name might imply, and if you're not aware of what it is, it's a site that really tracks down what you favorite image-wise, and then those suggest you something more. Now, a lot of people upload different pictures on here, and you might even find my artwork there, and I wouldn't even have uploaded it. So if you want to look up artwork and photography, Pinterest is extremely helpful. You'll probably find what you need, And chances are you might find stuff that you don't even know that you need. Now that we have that out of the way, the very obvious stuff, let's talk about the deeper side of finding references. Or making your own, if you want a clue to it. So, there are chances that you won't be able to find exactly what you want. And that's okay. Chances are, if you can find exactly what you wanted in a photograph, then you probably don't need to paint the picture yourself. The point of being an artist, of course, is to create a vision unlike anybody else's. So let's say you want to paint a cityscape. Now, the arrangement of the cityscape might be a bit different. And chances are, if you are going to do a fantasy piece, the city might be arranged in such a way that you probably wouldn't be able to find that in any sort of photograph or reality. So what do? You really need to know what the lighting is. You really need to know how the light hits the objects, the buildings in this case. And it's very hard to really picture that in your mind, which is completely possible, no matter what skill level you are. Now, the first tactic to resolving this is to combine different photographs and try to conceive and interpret how those photographs can be used in your artwork. Now, this might be extremely hard even then, because again, no matter how good you are, you might not be able to imagine how light will reflect around a certain environment. The second way, and something that a lot of professional artists actually do, is to create your own references. Now, you might say, hey, this is a little bit off, right? If you're trying to create a fantasy environment, how do you really make your own references? It's quite simple. If you know the fundamentals of art and lighting, you can take small objects, arrange them in such a way that it reflects your composition, and then light it up in the way that you need. So for instance, if you have wooden blocks in your area, or in your place rather, you can reasonably take those wooden blocks and arrange them in such a way that it would reflect the buildings that you want to paint. And then you just shine a light to it as if you're playing God, and you can just take a photo of that. Being creative with your references is very, very important, and something that my first year layout teacher for animation taught me. Now, if my memory serves me right, his example was, if you want to paint a boat, you don't really need to get your own boat. Sometimes you could even take a toy boat and put it on water and simply take a photograph of it in the lighting that you need. Again, something reasonable, something creative, and something that will give you a very nice reference to how you want to tackle your problems. So in the same vein, I always advise people to have a mirror, because if you're drawing a character, you might not be the exact same as a character you're drawing, but you can reasonably create and use your own face as reference, and your own body even. A lot of studios might have a full-size mirror just so that you are able to look at yourself doing the actions that you need to animate or draw. Again, creating your own reference where you might not be able to. Remember, in art, if you know the fundamentals, you can transfer that type of knowledge and bring it to a grander scale, or even just a microscopic scale, depending on what you're trying to draw. But either way, when you're making reference, try to find similar things that can reflect the artwork that you're trying to create. Anyways, hopefully that was helpful. Again, look forward to my artwork analysis series that I will be releasing early next year. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next time.